We're going to go to one of our virtual experts here, Deepak from IDE Global. Would love to get your view on this big question we're gnawing on, which is Indigenous knowledge in tension with modern scientific knowledge? Over to you.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for that, and what a privilege to be here today. Before I begin that, I saw an interesting news this morning that one of the winners of the Local Adaptation Champions Award at the summit, which I'm missing out today, is an innovative community-centric safe water initiative from the remote hills of Bangladesh. So that was quite an amazing way for me to wake up this morning. So congratulations to the winner. And also it serves as an interesting opening for this conversation as a reminder that locally led Indigenous knowledge-based solutions can often be, not often, but in most cases are impactful, sustainable, and cost-effective. And therefore, based on your earlier question, are they important and integral? Of course they are. They should be part of our repository of knowledge and practices, particularly in our race to resilience, as it's rightly called, because I don't think we have the time nor the luxury of being too picky and choosy here. I think it's utmost importance to have all the knowledge, all the lessons, all the ideas and innovation to help us get there. But this conversation was an interesting eye-opener for myself, Sarah, because as the other speakers before me very articulately pointed out, there are some major hurdles in why it is not the case as is often we think it should be. Oftentimes achieving scale from locally led innovation and practices are difficult, as most often these solutions are based on local context, culture, values, and resources. Receiving scientific validity and acknowledgement is often challenging, as most of these solutions are codified in local languages with limited reach and access. And of course, above all, mechanism for scaling these adoptions, whether through private or public mechanisms, are often also not fully capable of supporting these ideas. So, in our work of scaling technologies at IDE, we often see that the misperception is that local knowledge and Indigenous practices are often associated with being old, conservative, or inferior, while modern and scientific knowledge are often associated with being superior. So there's really a stigma and a perception that needs to be changed. And at IDE, Sarah, we've been working for the last 40 years on designing and scaling technologies in agriculture, food, nutrition, the whole water, sanitation, hygiene spaces, and with of course, the objective being helping bring positive changes and impact on the communities that we work in, and above all, in partnership in co-designing these solutions with the communities. So to share our lesson and experience, and I'll keep it very brief and short here because I know time is of the essence. In doing so, our challenge has been to work in two very interrelated themes on what you said, is it dichotomous? Is it the other side of the coin? For us, it's the first one of designing and commercializing these technologies is developing a context-specific solution that is desirable amongst the users in terms of how it fits into their culture, habits, and values. In short, a solution that has what we call the stickiness factor. It sticks in terms of its adoption. And the second challenge has been to understand how to make these sticky solutions available and affordable to a large number of consumers through market mechanisms that are sustainable and accessible. So it's taking these really interesting local knowledge, but also using mechanisms that can bring that knowledge to a wider audience, that can make it affordable and make use of that knowledge beyond just the local culture that it's appropriate in. And in doing so, Sarah, our lessons have been many, but the one thing I think I should emphasize here is that the experience that we have, and that's relevant for today's discussion, is that we need to have a very radical reflection on what we mean by and how we define change, because change is what we're after. And going back to what our first speaker, Joshua, said earlier, the current focus on the parameters of how we define development terminology such as impact, sustainability, value for money, and return on investment needs to be grounded by asking ourselves, what does it mean to empower people to change their lives on their own terms, giving prominence to the voices that should matter the most. And as soon as we start going down this path with an emphasis on the phrase and the ideology of people changing their lives on their own term, I think we start having and considering what is important to those who should lead that change, and we de-emphasize our external definition of that change. And it's not easy to do, and we need to let go of our current way of thinking. But I think that it's a powerful way to look at a systemic transformation on how Indigenous knowledge and locally led initiatives can be recognized for what they are and open our own horizon. Very much in line with what you said, Sarah, at the beginning of the session. It is about where you stand, and more importantly, it's about where you choose to stand and what perspective you choose to use and bring to the table. So I think that's where I'll stop here. There's so much to talk about. What an amazing topic, but I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. So wonderful. Yes, round of applause. I love that you named the stigma that needs to change and challenged all of us to think about the reframe around agency and power and empowerment to invite people to define the outcomes which they are pursuing through knowledge or the mixology of knowledges. So thank you so much for that.
Absolutely, and a great question, Christina. And just to build on what the gentleman from USAID said, I think for me, the biggest learning here would be, the one thing I could change would be we need to be willing to put our ego aside and listen more and talk less, I think.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm not going to try and capture everything that was, or summarize everything that was said in this really rich discussion, which I'm truly honored to be a part of today. But I think what really jumped out at me was, we asked very profound questions about whose knowledge counts, who benefits from that knowledge. Often we see very extractive knowledge systems, but we also heard about the disconnect between the classroom, from Joshua, the classroom and the field. We also heard some amazing solutions out there to help deal with drought, to help deal with too much water and water harvesting. And I think what was interesting about the solutions that we heard is that they tended to be very circular, very integrated, and not the kind of single solution paradigm that so much of our innovation systems, as Claudia mentioned, with our CTs, we focus on one variable, just as for many years we have focused on production rather than nutrition, rather than ecosystem health, et cetera. And so the solutions that are coming up tend to be more integrated. And then they're more localized and reinforcing, as Maite said, of care systems, of culture. And that's so important as we saw the need for more locally led solutions, more locally reinforcing local determination, local power, local knowledge. But we also heard that past is not prologue. We're heading into a situation that we've never been in before, feeding 9 billion in light of the climate change that is already in the system and continuing to accumulate and accumulate unless we take urgent action. And so we need a marriage of different kinds of knowledge, new ways of continuing to develop and advance that knowledge. And I think that that has a real importance for a lot of important initiatives, like the Regen 10 initiative that was just launched last week at COP, or the Agriculture Innovation Mission for Climate that seeks to mobilize, I think, upwards around 8 billion for innovation of climate-related solutions in agriculture, or even the discussions on the future of the Coronivia dialogue on agriculture, which is taking place just meters away from where you're sitting, those of you that are in the Resilience Hub, and the amplitude that work program will take going forward. So I think there's no time to waste, as Deepak reminded us. But also the one word that I would say that sticks in my mind from this conversation today is respect. respecting knowledge, respecting cultures, respecting tradition, but also respecting the challenge that we have at hand, and the need for continued innovation and development of solutions and taking them to scale, which is not at all contrary or in conflict with the local leadership. So with that, I know we have just 1 minute to conclude. I'd really like to thank partners in developing the session, IDE, the Huayru Commission, Rockefeller Foundation, our partners at the Resilience Hub and the Global Resilience Partnership, and of course, all of our fantastic speakers for being here today, and those of you in the audience for listening in. So thank you so much. And Sarah, final word from you.